Hi everyone. Well, it turns out I tried to trim the video and the trim did not work out correctly, so I'm going to re-record the video for Mounce chapters 4 and 5, and I'll do that beginning right now. My top 10 for Mounce chapter 4. In 4.1, Mounce defines inflection. When someone like Mickey Klink or Novakovic or Rob Plummer is doing grammatical analysis, they will often mention inflection. Inflection indicates how a noun is functioning, how it's being used in a sentence. Inflection is simply changing the form or the spelling of a word to indicate how it's functioning. My number 2 tip is in 4.2 and all the way until 4.4. In these sections, Mounce is trying to help you understand that a noun indicates a person, place, or thing, and that it can be used in English 3 ways because it has 3 cases in English. A noun can be used as a subject, a noun can be used as an object, or a noun can be used to indicate possession. And those 3 cases in English are the subjective case, the possessive case, and the objective case. My number 3 tip is found in chapter 4 and section 5. The thing to remember about this section is the subjective case indicates the subject of sentence. 4.6 is my top 10 number 4. The possessive case indicates one noun belongs to another. My top 10 number 5 is 4.7. The objective case indicates in English that the noun is functioning as a direct or an indirect object. A direct object is a noun that's directly impacted by the action of a verb. And as Mounce says in 4.8, which is my number 6 tip, an indirect object is a noun that's indirectly associated with the action of a verb. For example, Jesus spoke to the crowds. To the crowds, 3 words in English, would be written with a dative case noun in Greek. And it would be dative case because the crowds are indirectly impacted with the act of speaking words. Jesus spoke. What did he speak? Words. Who was impacted indirectly by the speaking of words directly? The crowds. This idea is that Jesus spoke words, the direct object, to the crowds who were indirectly impacted by those words that were spoken. You used to know stuff like this when you went through English class, or at least your teacher tried to teach it to you, but it's good to be reminded, isn't it? And I hope you're smiling. My number 7 top 10 tip for chapter 4 is in 4.9. It has to do with word order. The English uses a normal word order almost all the time in English. It's going to be subject first, verb second, object third. So the case or function of a noun, the way it's being used in a sentence, is indicated not by inflection in English, but by its word order in the sentence. Greek does not need to use word order, and oftentimes it does not use word order. It does not use the subject-verb-object pattern very often to indicate how the case of a noun is functioning in a sentence. The case of a noun and the way that it's spelled, its inflection, is indicating what case and what function the word is playing in the Greek sentence. And so things can be mixed up, all of those puzzle pieces, subject, verb, object. Object can be fronted in a sentence because the writer wants to emphasize it. The verb can be fronted in a sentence and made first because the writer wants to emphasize that, or the subject can be fronted. My number 8 tip for you in chapter 4 is found in 4.10. It has to do with number. And this is an easy one. There are only 2 numbers, singular or plural in Greek, and they work the same way as they do in English. My number 9 tip for you in chapter 4 has to do with gender. Gender is something that we attribute to a noun, and we say that the noun is masculine or feminine or neuter. And in English, this nomenclature follows what English speakers have come to see as a natural gender order. And so we associate masculine with masculine people or things, things that seem to English speakers to have a masculine quality to them. Same way with feminine, and neuter we only use with things. Greek does not use the natural gender classification when giving gender to nouns. Greek nouns do have gender, but while English uses natural gender, Greek does not. That's my top 10 for chapter 4. In reality, only a top 9. Now, how about chapter 5? Remember to look at your copy of LG 730 notes to help you as you read through the chapters that I sent to you. I tried to help you understand things that were really important. And I continue to try to do this with these videos. So in Mounce chapter 5, my first tip for you is found in Mounce chapter 5, sections 1 through 3. Nouns in Greek are spelled or made up of two parts, a stem and an inflectional ending, or a case ending. That's two ways to say the same thing, and grammarians love to say things in more than one way that mean the same thing, don't they? They do. Mounce gives you lots more info in the rest of these sections than you need in this chapter, but read it over. All this stuff does not make it into my top 10. My tip number 2 for you concerns Mounce chapter 5 and section 4. And this again talks about the amazing wonder of gender in Greek. Gender does not have any impact on meaning in Greek because they do not think of it like English does. And so even a noun related in some way to a man or a woman may not be masculine or feminine or as an English speaker would expect it to be. My tip number 3 in chapter 5 has to do with number. And we talked about this back in chapter 4. It's an easy one. Numbers in Greek, as in English, are singular or plural. My tip number 4 in chapter 5 is concerning chapter 5 and section 6. I want to tell you what a gloss is. I'm not really sure why Mounce throws this in here, but it is important to know that gloss is a simple definition for a word in Greek that may or may not fit the meaning of that word in any particular context in the Greek New Testament. It's kind of like many possibilities for the definition of a word in an English dictionary, but definition has to do with spoken language that is still in use. Gloss is the word that's used in a lexicon, which has to do with languages that generally are not still in use. My tip number 5 for you in this chapter number 5 concerns sections 7 and 8. Mounce describes parsing to you in these sections. Parsing means taking a word apart, and so it becomes parsing. This is part of Greek lingo, part of the terminology that has to do with Koine or New Testament Greek. It's often found in commentaries. They will talk about the way a word is parsed. That's shorthand for talking about the way a Greek word is inflected. Breaking it apart, looking at stem, looking at its flexional ending, deciding what case and number and gender it is. When you parse a noun, you indicate three things, the three things I've just said, case and number and gender. But the order in which those three things can appear can vary. Different writers use different orders when they describe the grammar of the New Testament in a commentary, for instance. Greek uses 4 cases: nominative, that's the case of the subject; accusative, that's the case of the direct object; dative, that's the case of the indirect object; and the genitive case. And the genitive is the case of possession in Greek, but, and this is a big but, it can also be used to modify a noun in ways other than indicating possession. You'll learn about these other ways as we go on. But when we talk about the way in which the noun is being modified, we usually talk about a head noun and then describe the way that the genitive case noun is modifying that head noun. Possession is one way that a head noun can be modified. We say in English, the book of James. Of James would be genitive case in Greek. The head noun would be book. Book of James. Nominative case, described by and modified by genitive case, indicating possession. Book of James. Those are my top 10 for you from Mounce chapters 4 and 5, and I've gone through them quickly, I know, but by now you've gotten used to pausing and the video where you need to, looking back at what Mounce says. I'm trying to pick out for you what I think is particularly important and significant Remember, we're not trying to memorize things. We're trying to get familiar with things. And I'm trying to help you get most familiar with things that you may end up seeing most commonly. Hope it's being helpful to you. Feel free to get in touch with me anytime.